Well, I think I'm going to take it from here and talk a little bit about performance management. And I want to give you a little bit of the philosophy around performance management from the RF's perspective. I know frequently people will think performance management is performance appraisals, and performance management is actually the umbrella for all that we do at work, all the good that we do, and all of the hard work of research administrators. It's important, I think, when we're talking about performance management, that people know that this is really about frequent feedback. And if I were going to rule the world, I would get rid of appraisals. I would say the most important thing is that we sit with each other, knee to knee or phone to phone, and we do this frequently, several times throughout the year. There is an expectation that you have supervision with the staff that report to you. So that can take the form of a one-on-one meeting, uninterrupted, maybe for 30 minutes, maybe it's once a month, maybe it's twice a month, but it's time dedicated between me and my supervisor to talk about issues that are impacting my work and maybe some requests for assistance as well. So that's different than, hey, I got an open door policy and I'm available anytime. That may be true, and for God's sake, it's 2016. I hope you're available for people, but I'm talking about something better than that. I'm talking about dedicated time on a frequent, regular basis where you can meet with your supervisor. So high-performing teams have regular supervision sessions, and they go both ways. So I know for the folks around the table that work with me, frequently we have agendas, maybe little scraps of paper with some thoughts, because we don't want to kind of bug each other all week long. We save time and we dedicate a commitment to one another. That's important. So I just want to remind you that performance management is really about spiraling upward in what we do and how we do it. And some of that happens by meetings with our staff. The other thing I want to just mention is that no appraisal surprises. That really, when we are sitting together and talking about the great year you've had, you shouldn't be surprising people with, oh, and by the way, I didn't like the way you said that in March, right? That we actually try to use just-in-time feedback. Good supervision leads to high performance. And there's a connection between us having the ability, the confidence, and the clarity to give feedback to one another in a way that is not demoralizing, but actually after a few days kind of lifts you back up and you say, okay, that was good feedback, I think I can do something with it. So no surprises in your performance appraisal. When you do that, you put the RF at risk, and I think Barbara would agree that most of the issues that we have that are either at the Division of Human Rights or EEOC claims, it's because people are taking legal action because their supervisor wasn't that good. And I think that it's really important that we just make sure you understand at the RF, we want you to be a great manager, and we've got a lot of tools to help you. So coaching for your performance, I talked about what you do and how you do it. So that's, you can look at that along the business results or the what we do, and the how you do it are the people results. Most organizations have trouble with the latter. So the what we do might be pretty clear. It's in our job description. We got a good sense of what our deliverables are, but we're having trouble working with each other. Maybe we've got some relationship issues, or maybe we've got some confidence issues. Most people lose their jobs, not just at the RF, but in most industry on the how they do it, not on the what they do. So we give feedback, right? We don't let things just like slide. If there are issues around performance, we talk about it with each other. We're not afraid to have the conversations, but as managers, we're prepared, right? So if I'm going to have a conversation with a staff person about some work that I want them to improve in, I'm ready. I've got my little piece of paper with the 3 things I want to say. I don't fill the time with a bunch of junky talk about how great things are or how nice it is outside. I'm prepared. I know that I'm going to lead with some strengths that the person has, but I'm then going to go into, listen, I recognize that you're working hard. I noticed at a staff meeting last week, your arms were folded. You seemed disengaged. And when I asked you a question, you didn't respond. You're specific with what the behaviors are that you observe. And as you're doing that, people will then tell you, well, this is what was going on. I didn't mean to act that way. And then you're sort of recalibrating the relationship a little bit, and your expectations are set, but then people have time to tell you about why maybe something wasn't going right that day. A couple of other tips as managers of the RF, make sure you're using strength-based behaviors. And so when we're looking at course correction, make sure you start out with, you know what, I'm really happy with the way you're interacting with our new assistant. I've seen a lot of positives. I see that you're taking a break with a couple people, and you sort of frame the conversation about the observations that you have that are positive. It goes a long way. The other thing I want to just mention, when I say that open door policy isn't good enough, that's really old-fashioned. Many people don't have doors, right? So many people are working in cubes. So when we say to somebody, hey, I got an open door policy, that already infers you have a door and somebody else doesn't. So like, let's get rid of that. Let's really say, I'm going to make time to meet with you twice a month. Let's see if our schedules work together. And then other times during the week, of course, come talk to me if our availability meets. And lastly, I'm going to say performance management is about professional development as well. And so the next slide shows us this really easy format that we have for professional development. We use it in our mentoring and our leadership programs, but it's just one question, like not a whole bunch of targets and objectives, but what is your career aspiration? What are your career aspirations? And you can fill this out electronically. You can write it with a crayon. It doesn't matter to me. The point is that you're putting down on paper something around your development, and that it actually gets discussed with your supervisor at least once a year, if not twice. In our department, we share our professional development goals with one another in a group session twice a year, and we help each other stay on track with the things that we want to put forward. So I'm going to put Barbara and Kate on the spot and just kind of check in with them. And maybe you'd like to share with us, Kate, one thing that's on your development plan.
I would love to, Kathleen.
Good.
For me, this coming year, I would like to go to a national conference. I have not been to a conference in my field, HR, nationally. So I'd like to see if I can get out there and do it this year.
Good, and so because Kate and I do work closely together, when we were going over her performance appraisal this year, that's what I put in the end of her appraisal. I really want Kate to go to a national conference this year. It's because she said it, she committed to it in writing, she shared it with me, and I'm not going to forget it. And that's really what we want you to do as managers, is know what people are looking for in their career. And sometimes they're not about that. They're not about going somewhere. Sometimes it's about a flexible work schedule so people can take a class, or a change in some duties because they want to try something else. It can be anything. And speaking of that, Barbara, what is on your professional development plan?
So I have a couple of things, but the one that's at the top of my list is to get the Society for Human Resource Management certification. I have wanted to do that for several years. I've always put it on the back burner, which is not where it should be. It should be on the front burner, and it is now. And another thing that I have done in the past is to be a mentor through the Mentor Protege program at the RF, at central office. And I'm going to put my hat in the ring for that again this year, because I really got a lot out of that.
Good.
And I have many other little things, but those are probably my big things.
Great. So I think credentialing and the importance of having certifications throughout our industry is important. We're going to be offering some study classes so people can get their CRA. We think that this is important for people in all fields throughout research administration, but being credentialed, feeling good about some initials after your name, it's an important professional development. And so I'm really glad, Barbara, you mentioned that. So my next slide shows a little bit about some things that you can do. And we have a menu of ideas, so attending seminars, self-directed experiential learning is important. It certainly aligns with the Chancellor's commitment to virtual and experiential learning. Improving your ability to understand finances, what's in a balance sheet. Really, all of us who are looking to some trajectory in our career have got to manage people and money. You have to have those. as part of your portfolio. So if you're not in a job that can manage the money aspect, start asking to sit as an open chair in a finance meeting. You can attend the working at the RF, the business of the RF, because we do go through what an income and expense statement looks like, and you should know what a balance sheet is and what it looks like on the RF side. So all of our materials are open and public, so people can take a look at them. Open chair, so that's a concept that we actually have had a Learning Tuesday on. We talk about it in a lot of different settings, but that just means where two or more of us are gathered, there's a chair for you. There's a chair for somebody to sit and learn and listen. We had an open chair at our staff meeting yesterday from External Relations. We learned a great deal about some templates that we can use as we're writing memos and emails and policies. And then we said, why don't you stay in open chair our meeting? And sure enough, she got to see what our budget was at Human Resources and how we're managing the initiatives that we have and the dollars that we have. These are all important elements of being an inclusive and like learning organization. Wherever somebody else can learn with you, you do it. In fact, Matt came to our retreat this year as an open chair and looked and saw how we were doing our budget planning. And I know you gave me some good insights into sort of like what that looked like for you. But my goodness, again, it's 2016. Let's dust off the cobwebs. Let's be transparent and invite people into what we're doing. And you can do that at department meetings, or you can do that in individual sessions. Internal workshops, mentoring, books, readings, and then other good ideas that you have as well. So we also want to show you just a flyer that we have around learning. And so at the central office at the RF, these are some of the learning offerings that we have, and we say we're a great place to learn. And so Jerry's going to talk a little bit more after the break about Leadership Academy, but Learning Tuesdays, the reason we have these is to really help people to have just-in-time knowledge around issues that are impacting the workers of the research administration. So these are all archives, and you can really use them in ways to help orient people. I know Jerry said that's what he does at UAlbany. I really like that you just sometimes see what's already out there and maybe use them to help people. We've got scholarships from the Center for Professional Development that are actually used for all research administration staff. At central office, we have a small budget for tuition reimbursement. And then supervisory training is really important that all supervisors at the Research Foundation participate in sessions like this, that you really need to know what your responsibility is as a manager, and it would be irresponsible of us to just let you all go and say, hey, you know how to be a manager. That's not the truth. The truth is, every place I've worked, I've had to learn what the rules are and what the important policies are that protect the Research Foundation. In this particular case, Kate went over a lot of them, and Barbara will go over a few in a little while. But everywhere you work is different, and there's no one size fits all for management. But in our particular case at the Research Foundation, because we're so heavily involved in compliance-related issues, you have to really know what the rules are. So this is going to be required for all our RF managers. And then I just want to tell you that we also have a program for new staff. We're having a session on July 13th. We'll have another one probably in the fall. And this is basically, you should know the business of the Research Foundation before you really start, diving into your work. So we're hoping to have these sessions clustered around the state so that people from every campus who work in research administration can attend a session. And this session is actually being recorded so that we can talk a little bit at the end of a new staff orientation about what the management responsibilities are. So with that, we're going to take a break, and then we'll come back and talk about the Leadership Academy.